Welcome to my channel, Edible Thoughts Makes. My name is Stephanie, and this channel is where I share with you my works in progress, finished projects, things I'm cooking up, books I'm reading, funny things my kids may say. My hope is that as you watch this episode and the previous episodes, that you find some inspiration along the way. This is episode, I'm not sure what. We are at the very end of March, year 2024. It has been quite some time since I've had the chance to sit down and do a full-on episode, and I have to tell you, spoiler alert, that this is not one of those either. I think the last time we had a full sit-down episode was maybe about 6 weeks ago. It has been very full and great busyness over here in our household. In February, we had some on and off colds, and so the kids were on and off at home, never on the same day, and so that always threw everything for a loop. In March, we had a wonderful trip. We went to Japan and Taiwan to see family, with family, and it was just a blast. We just recently returned home. We are exhausted, still jet lagged, and that means falling asleep at the dinner table, just me, and waking up super early, like 4 in the morning wide awake. So yeah, we're still getting over that, and there's tons of things to catch up on at home, and we have more family actually coming in town, and so it's just go, go, go. All great things. It just is busy. And so today's episode, hopefully I'm aiming for 30 minutes or less. I wanted to give you a little bit of a recap of our trip, not in terms of like a full-on travel vlog, because I don't have time to do something like that. And I wanted to give you a little snippet of our trip. It was so special and meaningful, and it was such a memorable once-in-a-lifetime opportunity because my siblings went, my parents went, we all landed in Japan on different days, and we did meet up for some of it near the end of that week. And then we flew all to Taiwan on different flights, but we spent all our time in Taiwan together. My family is from Taiwan, and we got to see lots of cousins and my grandparents, and at one point we had 4 generations in one photo, ages 2 to 98, and that was just so special. So I wanted to share a little bit of that with you, as well as how my knitting fit into it and what I put in my notions bag getting onto that plane. I'm always a little bit cautious that my stuff is going to get thrown out because it's not safe for the airplane or whatever the case may be, but everything was fine. Everything went with me and came home with me, and I had 0 issues. So I wanted to share a little bit of that with you. Disclaimer, it may not be the same for everybody, depending on the airline, depending on the TSA agent you get, depending on what country you're flying in and out of. That can change a lot of different things. I'm just sharing with you my personal experience and what worked out for me. Okay, before we get into trip recap, I wanted to quickly share with you what I am wearing because I usually get asked about that. And on that note, I do try to include things I talk about in the description box below this video. Sometimes you have to click on show more. Because this episode is a little bit different, I won't probably have as many links for different things that I talk about. So that's just kind of a heads up. What I am wearing is the Soiree scarf by Gabby Bush. It is a free pattern on Pearl Soho's website. I have a whole video talking about how I made my modifications, what yarn I used, how I planned on wearing it, which all came in handy for this trip. And so that is the scarf that I am wearing. The sweater that I am wearing is the Ranunculus by Midori Hirose. I'm going to get up a little bit so that hopefully you can see it a little bit better. This is the winter version that I knit, and I really like it. There is a video that talks about this project as well here on my YouTube channel. If Ravelry is accessible to you, I also have lots of detailed notes on my project pages for that, and included in those project notes are the link to the YouTube episode where I talked about that project. So that is what I'm wearing today on this very snowy day in Minnesota, where I'm coming to you from. We hardly got any snow all winter, and now it's the end of March and we are in a snowstorm. And that is not unheard of. We get snow into April as well. I think it's just the fact that we had such a mild winter that the snowstorm feels a little bit not out of character, out of the blue. It's just catching us a little off guard, I think. A lot of us welcome it because there are lots of us that love winter, love the snow. I think it's just hard when it's not consistent. So when you get these like really random 50 something degree days in the middle of winter that aren't supposed to be there, and then all of a sudden you get hit with a snowstorm at the end of March, it's just a little bit weird feeling. But if it was snowing the entire time like it usually does, then it's just normal. So anyway, what I am working on is a test knit for Tori Yu. It is the Skyline Tee. I'll hold it up for you real quick. The deadline is early mid-April-ish, and this is where I'm at with it. I've got the sleeves completed. I have my neckline picked up and completed. I love the shaping of it. It is my first time knitting a saddle shoulder construction, so things are a little bit in pieces and then you pick up for them, and I'm so proud of my tidy pickups. This one particular here is very tidy. The one on the other side is maybe not as tidy. Well, I think it's fine. It'll block out just fine. The yarn that I'm using for this is Linen Quill by Pearl Soho in the colorway Vintage Celadon. It is a beautiful heathered, what would you call this color? It's not quite robin's egg blue, but it's kind of, it's like a greeny blue, but not really green. I'm not sure. It is very dimensional in its color. It is not just solid. Again, like I said, it's heathered. And then since the linen doesn't pick up the dye the same as the fine Highland wool and the alpaca, it gives it extra dimension, and it's just lovely. So I'm on the body section now, working round and round. So that is what I'll be knitting on while we're talking, because I really have to work on this. I have another test knit that is also in fingering weight yarn. So I also have to be working on that, but that's not due till the end of April, and I'm not at a point where I can knit on that and talk at the same time. I need to focus on that one. So this one's just round and round in the body, so that is what I will be working on while we chat. Okay, so let's talk about our big trip. I think I'll start with like the knitting packing part of it. And so I said I would talk about what was in my notions bag. So I have not put everything away yet. Another reason why I wanted to get on here and talk to you about it before I put everything away. So here it is. I don't generally keep everything in like a pouch like this, but for travel I did. And so I found this clear zipper bag at Target in that front like red dot section, if you're familiar with Target. And it came in a pack of 2. I can't remember how many dollars it was, maybe $3 or something. And it's the perfect size to slide stuff in where you can see it. So I had bought 2 packs of 2, so 4. We are a family of 4. So I gave one to each family member and said, do what you want with it. There's a little slidey pouch in the front. I had the kids write their names on it and stick it in, so it was easy to tell whose was whose. And I think they came in slightly different colors. So there was like a hot pink, orange, and like a teal and a bright green, I think. So everybody had their own, and I decided to use mine for knitting notions. That way I figured if I had to take stuff out of my suitcase going through security, it was easy to see what was inside. And I will tell you what's inside. So I have these silicone tubing, and this I brought just in case my needles were to get confiscated. I didn't want to have to pull everything out and lose my project. And so I did bring this silicone tubing with me. So in an emergency, if I had to, I could slide everything onto my stitches and not lose everything. So that's why I brought this. The project that I brought did not need any stitches to be held. I do not bring complicated projects on any trips because there's just no time for that. So this was an in-case thing, an emergency thing. Then I have a handy tape measurer because I did need to know the length of where I was knitting to, and the project that I brought was a hat, so I needed to know like when to stop for different things. I brought a small tin with light bulb stitch markers, and what do you call the ones that don't open? I don't know. Well, progress keeper, stitch markers, those kind of things. So that's what I had in here. And granted, I didn't need this many, but you know, you never know. And if I lost it on an airplane, I didn't want to be stuck. So that's in here. And then in this reused mint tin, I love these metal tins, and they're everywhere. You don't have to buy them just specifically for knitting. You can eat a tin of mints and then have the tin. So in here, let's see if I can hold it up without everything falling out. I'll show you what's in here and then I'll hold them up. So I have these foldable scissors, and I bought these ones at Knit Picks for a very affordable price, and I don't remember how much it was, but I mean definitely under 10, maybe under $5 US dollars, I don't remember. So these are foldable scissors, and they don't have a very long blade, and I don't remember the exact inches that TSA says is allowed for scissors. I don't remember if it's 2 inches or 3 inches, but these ones are just fine. And I think because they are foldable, which is kind of like they're sheathed, they seem to be even less threatening. I also had these silicone needle stoppers, just in case I lost the ones that I had. This is not for knitting, this is for my glasses. It's a screwdriver. It's like the mini screwdriver. It has the flat on one point and then like the star on the other side. I don't know why I'm uncapping it to show you because it's so tiny you can't see it anyway. But yeah, my glasses have these tiny screws on them, and I am severely nearsighted, and so if something happened to my glasses, I would be in big trouble. Yeah, so I bring this. Oh, you know what? The one thing that's missing from my tin is it's hooked onto my purse. I carry a crochet hook that's attached to my purse at all times just in case I need it, and so that would have been in here, but it was on my purse. That I think I also bought at Knit Picks, and I will have a link to Knit Picks in the description box below. And then I had some of these removable stitch markers as well in there. This polymer clay one is by Reshma of Hello Lavender. These other ones were ones that I just made from Charms, and they have like a circle. It's called a round lover back. And you might be able to find those at like craft shops or online or Etsy or wherever. But I like these round ones a lot because they're much easier to open and close compared to lobster clasps. And you can use them as progress keepers or stitch markers. So multi-use, multi-purpose is really nice. And then I have a yarn needle for weaving in ends or anything else. So that is what is in this little tin, and everything fits really nicely. I don't have to worry about stuff falling out. And so that's in here. And then like I said, I had brought a hat project. It was on US 3 or 3.25 millimeter needles. So then I also had these bamboo double points. And the reason I also have these is because I need it for the crown, but also because my 16-inch circulars are metal needles, and if for some reason TSA didn't like metal needles, generally the wooden ones are fine. So if I really had to switch to wooden needles to complete my project, not even for the crown, but for the whole thing, then so be it. Not my favorite way to do it, but if I had to, I have them. And they serve the purpose that I needed them once I got to the crown section. So I have those. I did not bring a digital scale with me, even though I use one all the time at home for all of my projects, just to calculate yardage and to know where I'm at. So when I brought my yarn with me for the project, I knew about how much I needed already because this was a project that I had made before. This was my 4th version of the Far and Wide hat, which is a pattern by Taylor Harris, which is free on Pearl Soho's website. So this is my 4th time making this, and I had adjusted the needle size, adjusted the stitch count for casting on, so I made quite a few modifications, but the idea of it is still the same. And so I knew how much yarn I needed, and I just wound off little bits of that, and then for the rest it was yarn that I had remaining from this soiree scarf, and I just wanted to use up as much of that as possible. And so I figured I didn't need my scale. I wound off probably enough with like 1 gram to spare, and so I didn't have extra to carry. I like to keep things as minimal as possible when I'm traveling, and I brought just enough basically. And then this was the project that I wanted to have finished by the time I got to Japan, or at least within a few days in, because I wanted to wear it on my trip. So now that we're done with the notions bag, we will segue into the project that I brought for the trip. So this is my Far and Wide hat. I love it. It is so soft. It is so nice. It is knit using 2 Purl Soho bases. The first one is Echo Cashmere and the second one is Quartz. So the quartz colors here are Pink Guava and Peony Pink. So Pink Guava is this like corally neon coral color. Peachy Pink is the Peony Pink color, and then the rest is knit in the Echo Cashmere, which is recycled cashmere. I don't have all the ends weaved in inside, but that's okay. This is a folded brim, so it's nice and thick around the ears. This color I believe is Flower Sack, and I used up every last bit that I had on one of the halves of this scarf, so I had that on the inside because I knew I wanted to use it all up and it wouldn't matter where it stopped. The lines on the outside here, this is the rest of Heirloom White. And I did have a little bit left over, I think a couple grams left over of that. But yeah, so those are the stripes there. And then the main color, the brown, I cannot remember what the colorway is. Let me look it up real quick. So the main color in the brown is Toasted Pecan, and I did not use that color in the scarf. I ended up using 33 grams of it in the hat, so I have a little bit left over. And the stripes each used about 3 grams total. So this hat is nice and soft. It has now been blocked. It was not blocked on the trip, although it did rain some on the trip, so it might have gotten blocked on my head. But it is so cozy, just the length that I wanted, because sometimes my hair is in a bun like it is now, so I need a little space for that. I like it a little bit slouchy. I like the brim extra thick and wide because I want it to cover over my ears. I tend to wear my hats a little bit lower on my forehead, and so I also need that extra length there. I don't want to be constantly tugging on my ears if it's not covering just right. So yeah, this one fits me really nicely. It's not too tight, not too loose. I feel like it fits pretty well. I do think that the cashmere yarn doesn't have as much elasticity as some other yarns, and so I wouldn't say it necessarily stretched out, but it just seemed so floppy that it just didn't like pull in as much as some other wool hats that I've made. And maybe it's also because there isn't any ribbing. I mean, that probably is a lot of it. It is all stockinette. There is not one purl stitch in this. The pattern has you do a provisional cast on and then you knit to like the provisional cast on edge after you unpick it, but I just did an old Norwegian cast on and knit to my cast on edge. I have a tutorial here on YouTube that I've done on the same technique but with socks, so I will link to that in the description box below this video. But yes, I'm very pleased with this hat. I did get to wear it on the trip. In Kyoto, it was pretty cold. The lows were maybe in the 30s and high was maybe 50. So it wasn't freezing, but we didn't have our winter coats with us. We were just layering. So just having this was really, really nice because other than that, I had like the hood of my raincoat. And so this just kept me nice and warm. And I really love the set of it with the scarf. I also brought a slip over that was also brown. And so I felt like it was a really nice ensemble. And I wore the 3 of those every day when we were in Japan. I think in Tokyo it was a little warmer, so I didn't always wear my hat, but I did wear all 3, which I'll put a picture of here on the screen so you can see the trio together, and that was just so nice. So now that we've gotten through Notions pouch, the project that I brought, oh, you may be wondering then, what did I knit on the way back or during my trip? Well, I didn't actually knit at all during the trip, aside from finishing up the hat in the beginning of the trip. And that was because we were always on the go. There was pretty much 0 downtime, and at night we were just exhausted. And so as soon as we got all 4 of us showered, which takes a while when there's 1 bathroom and everybody's tired, but yeah, so by then I wasn't interested in knitting. I was interested in sleeping. I think the day we had the most walking mileage was like 10 miles, and the least was maybe 5 miles. So we were really on the go constantly. And then flying back, I was so tired, I hardly knit at all. I did bring another hat project with me. It was a Musselburgh hat that I had started at home. So I got the crown done, and then I was just going to be able to knit stockinette throughout. But I hardly worked on it. I was so tired. I tried to sleep when I could. Really, it's pretty difficult to sleep on the plane, and I just hardly knit on the way back. But I'm really glad I brought what I did. It didn't take up a lot of room. They were both projects on US 3 needles, so I also didn't have to bring a ton of different needles, so it worked out really, really well for me. So on the note of traveling a really long time, I will start at the beginning, where basically it takes 24 hours from start to finish to get to where we are. So we fly from Minnesota, and there's usually one layover before we get to Taiwan. But this time we went to Japan first, and so we still had one layover. This time we flew to Chicago and then directly to Japan. And the Chicago flight is not very long. It's like less than 2 hours, I think. And then the flight to Japan, I want to say was about 14 hours. We also have a big time difference, and so with that time difference, you're just like all messed up. Your sleep is all messed up, your body's all confused, and you're traveling for 24 hours and hardly sleeping, and yeah. So it takes a bit. Now, I also want to note that getting there actually wasn't too bad is not the word, but it was pretty smooth. I want to say coming home is tough because in Taiwan, we're not, where my grandparents live, we are not near an airport at all. And thankfully, there is the high-speed rail train now, and that makes it go so much faster. So if you imagine the shape of like a yam, which is like the shape of Taiwan, and Chiayi is more like in the central part, whereas Taipei is in the top. And so it takes a bit to get there. And before we had the high-speed rail, we'd fly in and then we'd have to take a bus for several hours down to my grandparents' house. But then also a taxi was in there. I don't remember, but it just took forever. And this time, we still had to take a taxi to a train station and take the high-speed rail to an MRT, which is another train, and then take that train to the airport and then go from there. And so on the way home, we did that, and then we had to fly from Taiwan to San Francisco. Had a little bit of a layover in San Francisco, and then back to Minnesota. So it all in all went very smoothly. All our luggage made it. We had no issues through customs. Everything was fine. It's just long. And so I feel like because this trip we went to Japan and Taiwan, there was a lot more travel time involved, which made the 2 weeks that we were gone seem a lot shorter and longer at the same time, but just more time was eaten up in traveling. So getting there, I mean, you would get there essentially 2 days later because of the time difference as well. And then we also had travel time between Japan and Taiwan, and then the day you're leaving, it takes the entire day plus some, but because again of the time difference, you're getting in like the same day you left, but at night instead of the morning. And anyway, so that just kind of gives you a little insight into the traveling part of it, like the actual physical amount of energy it takes to travel there. But aside from that, we had so much fun, and there wasn't much time to get over jet lag once we got to Japan because we just hit the ground running. There was no time to really just adjust, maybe. We just had to keep going. So I'm going to be referring to some pictures here so that I can remember where we went. But again, I'm not gonna go into super detail on anything. This is not a travel vlog. I just wanted to give you some highlights. And I feel like I've said that a few times, but I just don't want to have like, what is the word? Misguided, any miscommunication in expectations. There you go. So when we got there, we went to the bamboo forest and the park, and that was just absolutely beautiful. The bamboo forest part wasn't huge, but like, it was still super enjoyable to walk through that path area. The sun was shining that day, and it was just absolutely beautiful. So hopefully I will also have pictures here on the screen next to me. I won't be including any pictures that includes anybody aside from me, just for privacy reasons, to respect the privacy of my family. And so if there are pictures here on the screen, they'll either just be of the landscapes themselves, or you might see me in them, but nobody else. And that doesn't mean I went by myself. It just means I'm respecting other people's privacy, and they will not be here on the screen. That same day, we went to this golden pavilion, and also for some of these names, I might not remember exactly what they were or how to say them, and so I will have them on the screen as well so that you will know what they are. It was so beautiful. It was cloudy, but the sun came out a little bit, and so the gold leaf would shine when the sun was on it, and then because the background was darker, it just glowed. It was so beautiful. And then that evening we went to a soba restaurant, and that was delicious. The food was so good. We ate so much. It was so good, so good. The next day we went to Nishiki Market. That was super fun. You've got tons of food vendors and like houseware vendors and snacks, and everything was amazing. And we did get food there. It was so good. I will have some pictures again on the screen. And was it? Yeah, it was at this market that we went into this little cafe in the beginning, and the little matcha lattes were super cute, and they had this like little cloud on top. And then the treats we got, it was like one was a white chocolate mousse with strawberry jam filling, and the other one was like a green tea mousse with an adzuki bean filling. Oh, so good. I can still taste it. So creamy, so flavorful, so good. For lunch that day, we went to a tonkatsu restaurant, and that was really fun because they had you grind your own sesame seeds and then add the sauces, and that's what you used. And so you could adjust it to your preferred flavor profile. It was raining, so we went to Nijojo Castle, and that was really fun and really interesting to learn about the history there. And we were able to kind of walk through the grounds and within the castle, which had tons of different meeting rooms. And the meeting rooms just had really interesting art around it that you could read about. And so that was really fun and a way to kind of stay out of the rain for a little bit. The fifth day, we went to Fushimi Inari, and this is an area that has thousands of shrines dedicated to Inari, who is the Shinto god of rice, and the foxes are thought to be Inari's messengers, so there are fox statues all over, and it was just fascinating to learn about that. We did not walk the entire path up, but we did do part of it, and that was really cool. Another highlight was that we went to Higashiyama District, and it is a preserved historic district, and they had tons of different food vendors again, and they had Studio Ghibli. There we were able to pick up some really fun Totoro stuff. At the end of that day, we walked Shijo Dori, which is this really busy street lined with high-end international shops, but mingled with that were these local shops. And I passed by a fabric store that I just had to walk into. It was so much fun to go into a local fabric shop. I did go through the remnants bin and found a goodie. Did I bring it up with me? Yes. So in the remnants bin, I found this fabric, which I feel like I've seen it before, but yeah, I'm gonna hold it up here so you can see it. So fun, right? Basically, it's like doodle drawings of sheep on this olivey, scummy green background. It is canvas. I believe it was 1 meter. Now, here's the price tag. And this is made in Japan. So let me find where I was reading it. It's on the selvage edge somewhere. Oh, here it is. And it's titled Sheep. So I'm gonna hold it up so you can see the selvage edge. So whatever I make with this, I do plan on keeping the selvage edge intact because I feel like that is something special about it and a great souvenir. I also picked up some pre-cut fabric from there. The kids picked out some as well, and these I'll probably make project bags, notion pouch type of things with them, and so I'll just hold up a few of them. I picked up lots of them. I can't remember how much they were, but they were a really reasonable price, and I just love the prints. And so yeah, that's a few of them, but yes, I picked up several of them. These were also printed in Japan. So if possible, I will also try to keep the selvage edge on them when I sew them up. so that I can see that part. We'll see how I work it up. But the selvage edge, since it doesn't fray, it can peek out in a project and not have any issues. Oh, this one's fun too. I can't remember which kid picked this one or if I did, but I really like it. So yeah, that is some of my fabric haul from a local shop on Shijidori Street. Okay, so I know I said I wasn't gonna go through it in detail, but then I started going through it in detail. And if you've been a longtime viewer, you know that that does happen sometimes. And so yeah, that was only like what, the first 5 days. I'm going to keep this short because I do not have the time to go through a lot of editing. So yeah, after that we went to Tokyo and spent a few days there, and in Tokyo there were some cherry blossoms, and there were some in Kyoto too, but we were a little bit early. It was really chilly, and so I think the timing of the peak blossom season was pushed back a little bit. Plum blossoms are earlier. That's usually end of March, middle end of March, and then you've got cherry blossom season, which I think was initially predicted for like the late mid end of March, but I think it got pushed back a little. So hopefully I'll have some footage of cherry blossoms and or plum blossoms here on the screen so you can see that as well. But they were so beautiful, the ones that we did see. And of course there were tons of people crowded around that one tree or two trees that were in this big park because they were the only ones that were pink. One dish that was really memorable was we had okonomiyaki for lunch with all our family, and that was super fun and super delicious. And I'll put up the menu here for the place that we went to. I will say that a lot of things in Japan, at least where we went, didn't necessarily have things in English, so you would use Google Translate, which wasn't always helpful, but sometimes if you like had it reset enough times, it would make somewhat sense. We did not know very much Japanese aside from like thank you, good morning, good night, things like that. And so it did make it a little bit tricky, but we did manage okay. Type of okonomiyaki that we got was the yayai yaki, and that had pork, baby scallops, squid, shrimp, and egg on top, and it was so good. You have it cooked on like a griddle type of surface, and then at each table there was like a smaller griddle that they would put it on so it would be hot as you were eating it. It was so flavorful and it was so good. We ate a lot of seafood while we were there. A highlight for my kids was the Pokemon Center. There were a few of them. We went to the one that was closest to the hotel that we were at, and they just had a blast there. And it was mostly like stuffed Pokemon of like tons of different ones, but also like keychains and pencil cases and things like that that you could get. It was basically a store, not like an interactive type of thing. Maybe a different Pokemon Center was, well, no, there were some like game things I think you could play on the side, but it was mostly like a big Pokemon store with as much Pokemon stuff as you could imagine. But that was really fun, and we went at the end of the evening, I think right before the store was closing, but we did squeeze that stop in. The next day, we went to this huge stationery store called Itoya, and it's 12 floors, but the top 3 floors weren't stationery. I think there was like a cafe, and then like it was an event lounge area, I think, and then there was a garden center, kind of. We got off on that floor just to see what it was, and there was like a line of hydroponics, lettuce, and maybe some other things that were growing. So I don't know if that was mostly for the cafe upstairs, but the rest of the 9 floors were all stationary, and that was so cool. Each level was a different theme, isn't the right word, collection maybe. So there would be like pens, and then there would be like crafting, paper crafting type of things. There would be home good type of things. And so each floor wasn't very big, but they were all separated by different categories, and that was a blast to go through. I need to tell you about the coolest art exhibit I have ever gone to. It is Team Lab. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's mostly, what do you call it? Digital art, I guess, but the rooms don't have fixed art on the walls. It's light and color and things that are constantly shifting, and there's music playing. Some rooms I think have light scents, so that like a floral thing would be going on, and then you'll smell jasmine, or I can't remember exactly what it was, but each room was a little bit different, and if you came back to a certain room, it would look different because they would change the lighting, and it was constantly moving. It was so interesting and so interactive, and we spent a few hours there. The tickets, I think you had to buy pretty early in advance, because definitely when we were there, it said they were sold out. And we had bought them, I want to say a month in advance. I can't remember exactly. But when we looked again, just out of curiosity, they were sold out for the next month. And I highly recommend it if you, I highly recommend it if you're not prone to motion sickness. I feel like if you're prone to motion sickness, it might not be a great option. Or if you don't like dark spaces where you can't always see your footing, maybe? Well, that's not true. You can see your footing, but it is dark. And some of the separate rooms were more fixed installations, but the flooring would be mirrored, so it would reflect the stuff hanging from the ceiling, and it almost made you feel like you were floating, except you weren't floating because your feet were planted on the ground, but you couldn't really see. I really don't know how to describe it. Hopefully I'll have some pictures up here. I don't want to spoil it though, in case somebody wants to go and they don't want to see all of it. And yeah, so maybe I'll just show a little bit of it so that it doesn't ruin everything. I will insert a clip now that will have the audio with it so that you can just get a little glimpse of what it looked like. I believe the week in Japan is now over, and we have flown to Taiwan, and Taiwan was much warmer. I believe the lows were maybe 70s and highs were 80. We might not have gotten past 80 when we were there, but it definitely went into the 90s by the time we left, so it was a little warm. You might see in some photos where we are still wearing long sleeves, but that is because we don't want to get bitten by all the mosquitoes, and so we tolerate longer sleeves even though it's hot to try not to get bit. I actually only left with one mosquito bite this time, which is unheard of. Usually I just get completely eaten alive, especially at my maternal grandparents' house where they have lots of trees and plants and standing water, and for some reason it wasn't so bad this time. I don't know what happened. I mean, I did use bug repellent, but usually that doesn't even help. I think, yeah, I don't really know what happened. I'm not complaining. So yes, we got to Taiwan. We went up to Taipei 101, and that used to be the tallest building in the world, and then that changed, and that was a while ago. I don't remember when it was the tallest building in the world, but it isn't anymore. But we did go all the way up, so you got a great view. Every day in Taiwan we ate amazing fruit. And just a side note, most of the foods I know in Taiwan, I only know in Taiwanese. I don't even know them in Mandarin, and I definitely don't know them in English, because that's just how I grew up. I grew up with 3 languages, Taiwanese, Mandarin, and English, and though I'm not fluent in Taiwanese or Mandarin, nor can I write Chinese, I did go to Chinese school for several years when I was little, but I only recognize some characters, and sometimes I can figure out a sign depending on context, but my reading skills are not very good. And I can understand a lot more than I can speak. And speaking, I don't think I have much of an accent, but my speaking skills have definitely gone downhill over the years, and it's just because I don't speak it on a regular basis. But my Taiwanese is not a written language, it is only spoken. So when you write it, you would just write the same as you would for Mandarin, which is the Chinese characters, and I learned the traditional characters, not the simplified, so that changes things up a little bit as well if you're trying to read text now. And although not everything is switched to simplified. Anyway, I'm getting totally off track here, but what I was trying to say is that a lot of the foods I only know in Taiwanese, and so if someone were to say the same thing but in Mandarin, I may or may not actually know what they're talking about, because some words are just so different in how they are spoken that you just can't tell. Some words are pretty close, some words are completely different. So I would say even if you could speak one, it does not mean you can understand the other. One really special place we went to in Jiayi, which is where my parents are from, where my grandparents live, is a really big park. And it is a park that my grandparents used to walk every single day. So they would get up at 5 in the morning, take a cold shower, go to the park, exercise for 2 hours, and then come back. And they would do that every single day. Now, my paternal grandfather is now 93, and he still does this, but goes to, I think, the smaller park, not the huge one, and he still gets up, I think, super early. My dad said he probably doesn't take a super cold shower anymore, just a lukewarm one, but he still does that every single day. And so that's amazing, and I think it's awesome. My maternal grandparents used to do like a track walking every day. I'm not sure they do it now. They are a little bit older. My maternal grandfather is 98, and my maternal grandmother is 96, and so they still live independently and do a lot of things themselves. They do need help, but they are overall still pretty mobile, and it is incredible. So I think that is all I have to say and share about my incredible trip to Japan and Taiwan. It was just so wonderful to hang out with my family and see aunts and uncles, grandparents, and cousins who I hadn't seen in several years, and get to know my little cousins who definitely they don't remember who I am from the last time I saw them, and some of them, I think everybody was born by then, but some of them might have still been babies. But yeah, so it was just really fun to catch up with everybody, and the time always feels too short, and yet at the same time you can't wait to sleep in your own bed. But yeah, it was incredible, and my kids just had a wonderful time, and I'm so glad that they got to connect with their great-grandparents, and my parents were there too, so we had grandparents, great-grandparents, aunts and uncles, everybody. We had 4 generations there, and that's something that's priceless, you know, and I'm getting like kind of emotional talking about it. I just feel like you don't always get the opportunity for everybody to get together, and especially when people live especially when people live on the other side of the world and you don't get to see them. We never take it for granted that it's something that we can do, and my parents always instilled that in us as kids as well, and so when we have the opportunity, we would also go, and it's usually every like 3 or 4 years. And yeah, so hopefully we've instilled that importance in our kids as well, for that connection with their culture, their background, their relatives, family, and that importance of exploring and immersing yourself in, even though it is your own culture, you're not there, and so you always kind of feel like you're in between, not quite fitting in one place, not quite fitting in another. But the more you explore externally, I feel like you better understand yourself internally, and it's just something that's really special. And I was not expecting to get so emotional about it, but there you go. Yeah. So it was a really important trip for all of us, and I'm so glad we had the chance to take it. And I wasn't sure if I was going to share it here on YouTube with you, but I think ultimately, I think it was just something that was really important and meaningful to me, and it's one way that I can log it, maybe not just for myself, but to share that experience with others who may or may not have the opportunity to do the same, and maybe it will encourage you to be able to do it should the opportunity arise for you. And maybe it's not even the same 2 countries that I went to, but maybe there are countries that are important to you and your family, and it's something that maybe you've been teetering on the fence about whether or not to take that leap and to do it. And yeah, I would encourage you to do it if it's something that is within your means, or maybe something in the future that you can plan for. Okay, I need to go get a tissue. And I'm so grateful for you taking the time to spend with me today. I hope you are doing well, taking good care of yourselves, your loved ones, and your families, and I will talk to you. Wait, that's not what I say. I usually say, okay, I really need a tissue. Forget what I was going to say. Oh, I know. I usually say, I hope you're taking good care of yourselves, your loved ones, and your neighbors, but yes, neighbors, families, everybody. I will talk to you next time. Cheers to being creative, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.